Millions of existences in human form and more still. Wars and illnesses, morbid realness in this society that lies and despises us, tries to make us into slaves and misers, knaves and robbers. It's amazing what we've gone through and still we persist through all of this. Can you imagine what we do to live on a daily basis? We are frail and faceless. Are we through this yet? I can't wait for the Venus Project to subdue these idiots. Aphrodite is done with Mars. Invert the letters and see what you got. We are done with wars, can you seize this? Jesus, but don't speak blasphemy, please. It's so simple, I know not sometimes, but I know too much. Too many times, regardless, it's too hard to clutch. They say in their Bibles, and too much knowledge is sorrow. All I can think of is that priests are still the least of our worries compared to world bankers. And I don't mean the corrupted ones, fucking up the instructions of Yeshua, Maria, Miriam. Grasp that the past is but a vast illusion, the mask of the blueprints to futures, where our sins are elusive for a reason. We are in the 5th season of Buddhists, like they say that we exist to believe in ourselves. We are deceived in hells that are all in our minds. We are not sinners at all, it's a lie. We aren't meant to be essentially. We are meant to be essentially. We are meant to be sinners, remember, recuérdate. We are a lot more than AIs in essence. We are non-binary presences, but that's not for those of you that go through existences living the lie that society told you. Get it? It's simple as hells that are endless in your minds. My tales are beyond this still. I am far yonder, ponder this. I'm a lot younger than you think it. I'm an eternal teenager in youthful form. I'm not a kid, but my dreams are ageless. Truth be told, I'm forlorn for a reason in war-torn places where we are deceived into believing that all is calm and peaceful. We live with a lot of privileges, still thinking that our ills and afflictions are just a part of who we are, and they aren't at our core, but really it's a lot more complex. I bomb so many texts that many forget that our consciousness is blanked out at every rebirth. You should thank me cause I read cursive scripts and for bringing you back wisdom from Sumerians and beyond and before this with aerial variants like Isat al-Garanika. That's the matriarchal Quran scriptures. I've got a lot of wisdom inside me, I promise you it's not a deception. But those of you that go through the throes of all we do not expect to go through, know not that I'm noble and honest. You know who I am, soy Sunya Morikawa. Kalkidash I am of the rivers and forests. Samurai warrior that authors the impossible to cure afflictions and problems. You could think for a second and I'd re-author and ink all of existences in a blink. As impossible as all of the pens jotting this as I script this. Sentences beyond men's comprehension, like the horrors we live on a daily basis. I am frail and faceless all too often. Can you imagine that like dragons? Can you imagine that like dragons? Or Michael dragging their severed heads? Which one would you choose in essence? It's a non-binary option, I promise you. Can you imagine that? Like Makara dragons and gats from Varanasi or gories that are dragging bodies into rivers to wash them. Twitch and shiver from the sheer force of Shiva and Kali. I believe in thieves and robbers a lot more than I believe in deceivers and cops that are evil. Does this make sense? No fake pretenses, slake your pretensions and your thirsts. I'm pretty tense, yes, but I make these verses regardless. As free verses and freestyles, no rehearsing when I breathe foul substances and odors. Like tobacco from corporations that are lowly, like pundits in India and Punjabi precincts, but they're opposite. They're worried about communists here, but I promise you they're not the problem to fear. I promise you they're not the problem to fear. We have a lot more to ponder than peers that are offering cheers instead of compliments or solutions. So much confusion, we're forever losing, it seems, to void walkers. Unseemly like voided thoughts in our dreams that are not that. Buddhist philosophers told us to observe them like Islamic persons. Murakaba, like Moorish Kaabas of the goddess. But imagine if all of society was not but matriarchal. Would we have these problems? I thought not. Now do you think there's an option between this? It's oracles. It's non-binary and I mean this. It's non-binary and I mean this. The main issue is, if you miss the nameless and forgotten times of so-called golden ages in human forms, they never existed as far as we know it in history, yes? So if you've been born, do you remember your birth? No? Neither do I. Dismember the notions of who we are forever evolving from the embers of hearths of gods and goddesses and oracles. Endless like India, they know this. There is no one God that's supreme, that's hegemonic and hierarchical like liars of gospels. It's not like Jesus, don't get it confused, like Yeshua ben Miriam is his true name. The benevolence of prophets is far from the blue flames of demons and hells they call bardos in Buddhist places in Tibet. There is no truest race like Quranic notions of chosen ones. There is no one son, just like the fact that if you like your offsprings, you don't choose a favorite despite the lack of comprehension that's what causes confusion and deception. That's what causes confusion and deception. I sing the blues often in these songs especialmente, no sé qué digar exactamente, es complicado, como la vida de Pachamama, la noche es fría, pero la noche de Frida Kahlo, es el arte de inmortales, somos humanos y humanas en portales que son de ficciones reales. Como oraciones de buena suerte, no somos del malo, somos realmente de la gente, de muchachas, de diosas, de la eternia, del cosmos, del invierno y del verano, de la invierna y de la veraña. Es el tiempo de las inversiones de lenguas y canciones. Es el tiempo de Madre Tiempa, la tiempa de las inversiones de lenguas y canciones. Somos en mansiones de la matriarcada. Escúchame, hombre, no es mi primera lengua, es mi tercia. Mi vocabulario es limitado, pero no es importante. It's not important how many words I speak or display and how many languages I speak, how many wordplays I can teach in a day. Absurdly or not, what I teach is beyond ageless, and I am less aged than you thought it or think it. What I brought you to is the brink of abyssal depths like Mariana's trenches with temples forgotten in the bottom. But the point is, do I need to choose to prove my point? I thought not, I jot thoughts that are far more than these lost laws. I jot thoughts that are far more than these lost laws. I jot more and I will, but it takes a lot more than will to write. I will ignite mics still in the noche. Ignore haters and botched prayers and botched players from fake Christians. People that are making deceitful statements. This is not against faith, but rather religions. Religare religioso, to bind, to submit to Roman gods like Mars or Ares. Can you think for a second if you're scared that we all wish to be reckless as spiritual practitioners with a death wish, enslaved as zombies and knaves? We aren't that far from our graves when we speak and pray as such. Would you seek to display your trust in God if you knew he was a voided fraud? Who is Yahweh exactly? Who is Allah? Who is Muhammad? Not at all like Jesus, I promise. I speak and believers of honesty sees what I talk of. It's complex but basic, like a lot of First Nations are. We are not Hasidic. We are as the birth of stars and hearths that are not rehearsed. Aboriginal peoples with original speeches. Aboriginal peoples with original speeches from oral traditions of beings far beyond the conception of ethers even. We are not deceiving, we are not your colonizing thoughts and speeches, not just settler litter. We stay critical, but our humor is better than ever. When you assume us to be idiots, we are as tapasuma nuliagic. We watch you like the moon goddesses and oceans before this. We coast on your sorrows and toast to your reincarnates. And we speak honestly always. We toast to your sorrows. And we coast on your oceans, even when they are polluted. We are not in confusion. We stay who we are for a reason. And off your nuisance, I won't even curse, cause I wouldn't want you to confuse this. You say Jesus, I say Yeshua. I keep repeating myself cause I'm trying to make you believe that repetition is essential for progress. Some people think that I speak too much. I'd say in honest, I didn't speak enough. Cause remember, this is not the 5th of November. It's not a movie, it's not a Hollywood script, it's not a comic. But we are mutants regardless, we are evolving beyond Omega level. Do you know about the Kardashev scale? Do you know what it represents? Do you know which level we're on presently? I promise you we're not even at 0 yet. We are in the unfathomable negatives because of animal ag, and that's the greatest genocide in history. Remember. Flow of time. That's all that we know in our minds, and the world is mind. And this isn't a reference to anyone, I promise. I wish I could escape this time and space when my mind is racing, and beyond this when lines are pacing inside me like they are now. Who am I and who are you? I am but a kindred from the land before times existed in a binary sense. Before colonial afflictions, I'm lonely and conflicted. Sometimes some people confuse me as delusional and demonic, but that's racist and ableist, that's classist and knavish. Think past this to ageless pasts, I pray thee. Imagine creative imagination is like dragons from the land of Mu, back in the days of Atlantis before they clashed as advanced civilizations. Vu, we are entranced as uncivilized patience. Like the overlords of slave ships that are controlling us in this patriarchally overboard matrix. Owners of corporations, dead corpses in our bodies often are in our neighbors. They say we should love them in Bibles, or we're liable for substances like hell's fires, but are we? Who are the Quranic angels and the Taurus? Kisat al-Garanika is the story of the avians. They are vegan like phoenixes feeding off of dewdrops of water from pure sources. They are vegan like phoenixes feeding off of dewdrops of water from pure sources. Do you know your alien races? Do you know who they are? We live in an infinitely expanding cosmos like a DT is limitless expansion, believe me. Antimatter and anti-gravity, dark matter is all that exists in the cosmos. That's 99.9% of all we are. After the eruption of Mount Fiji, did you see this in the news? Do you believe me? Is this like Fukushima? Have you had the apples of knowledge in your diet? Or do you eat gods and goddesses or oracles? Are you destroying life, or are you vegan? Are you creator? Are you destroyer? Are you native or métis? Are you a colonizer? Are you mestiza? Are you dazed and amazed at all that I've created, but do you honor it? What do you sate yourselves with, honestly? I'd be happy with sake or plum wine all day, to be honest. Training with wakizashi machetes and cold steel. I know real from fake when it's razor honed. It's not hard to tell. And I made these omens to spar with Satan on a daily basis. I made these omens to spar with Satan on a daily basis. That's Shaitan, but it's not Lord Chaitanya to Hindus or India. Do you believe me when I speak this? Are we demented, or are we ageless beings? We are often frail and faceless, coughing and wailing from poisons inside us, from toxins and chemicals from corporate monsters. Doesn't matter, to be honest. Are we training to evolve into futures as strangely evolved mutants? Should we give credit where credit is due? Are we often lost, or are we ready to view this? Are we veterans truest? Are we effortless or nuisance like we think of insects? What's the difference between a bee or a wasp? Between a fly or a spider? Between a mosquito or a dhampir? Between a butterfly or a moth? Are we still stuck in binary thoughts of our positions, while we thought that kindred taught us in institutions inching to screw us slowly like corks, that there is no such thing as good or evil in humans? But meanwhile in nature we're taught that segregation is logical. Is that natural though? And is that in nature? Is this logical? Does this make sense? Are there races of dogs and cats? Are we comparing oranges and apples? Or more than this? What if you lived in an orchard of pears your whole life with your peers? Would you think that that's the only fruit in the cosmos that exists there? What if there were psychotropics? What if they were psychotropic? Would that be the Garden of Eden to you? If you'd ponder this, I would if I were you, but I'm not regardless. In la quecha la kin, in la quecha la kin, and honest. I am from lost times and beyond this, as an Nahuatl and Mayan kindred. I was born as an Aztec warrior with Toltec wisdom inside me and Olmec ears. says. I was born as Goraknath in a Goraknatian future, evolutions of a future Manjushri of sorts, minus the honorary titles. Born as a Buddha, a Tata like all youth are. The youth is the future, so do you seize this like Jesus or Yeshua ben Miriam? Wouldn't see you as believers, you'd be desolate if you really saw your beliefs as Christians and thought with prescience. Did you know the Quran had more quotes of him than Muhammad? Do you know we're all kindred, and peace not be upon him, I promise you. He is a sick and demonic, voided being. He was a conqueror that slaughtered and raped children and women. And this is not something that you want to talk of, but I promise you I'm not being Islamophobic in essence. Not all like-minded we are, but I promise you we are still regardless individuals. We are still individuals regardless. A goddess once told me we're all normal and boring, we're all similar really, there's no difference in the essence inside us. But the problem is when I told her there is, we're all individuals, we're all different. She told me, it's because you haven't met your kindred soul yet. It makes no sense, so many souls are caught up in fake pretenses, cause they're bored in life, they can't see that we're all meant to be more than this. It's a problem, get it? It's so far from comparing. I all but get it, and I don't want to, but still I did. Like this wine inside me from España, from Iberian coast that's talking. Those are awesome spirits, all I can say is I know who I am. Do you know who you are in comparison? This is not me daring you or airing you out. I'm just a warning in all honesty, like Anthony of Egypt back in the days as a teenager. It's pretty simple, petty beef, squash it. I don't really eat anything toxic. Petty beef, squash it. I don't really eat anything toxic. I am not just vegan, I am Ital, it's far beyond this. I'd be a fruitarian as a Jain if I could. And I'm telling you, I know it's not easy in this world. We are all made of elements and there's far more than 5. If you think of all the movies we were lied in Hollywood, would we always be good if we didn't sit in front of screens at neo-Nazi disruptive frequencies? Would we really? Would we decay and age this quickly? I promise you we'd all be immortals. I'm pretty easy to get in essence, I get you too kindred. Can you believe who I am? It's simple, it's basic, like First Nations. It's basic like First Nations, and don't think this is degrading, it's the opposite of acidic. That's the opposite of Hasidic. In nature, just remember acid has its purpose when it's natural regardless. It could be alkaline or alkalizing. Thoughts arising to foster guidance. Oscillating is the opposite of fossilizing. Mosh pits are guidance to me like Moksha's islands. I'm a punk of Shiva, dungeon believer. At times lungs done from tons of pungent reefer and mapacho tobacco. So what though? Is that a problem for you? I'm a Bushido drunken master and ninjutsu practitioner sunken in chasms. You think or thunk me to be thumping blasphemous gospels, but no, like I told you, I know who I am. I told the old you, I scold you till you're bold and true. Technology controls you like false gold and jewels. It's like plastic rotting things, like rotting flesh inside those packages that are not that. Taric principles, Tattvam Asi. You are meant to be the cosmos and its evolution that is infinite like mana, like energy inside you, like prana that is inching up your spine in 33 spinal nadis and chakras. We have 36 chakras in our bodies. Those are mamas to some practitioners, but the new age deceived us. We're far from true pages, from believers that were just rehashing religions. And we are past this in wisdom. There are far more than 7 chakras even inside our spines. There are 9 main ones. forgotten youth. Where'd you think all that slave labor shit that you bought came from? From China, Malaysia, South America, Africa. And now we've got the proof. All of you are liable for eternal hellfire. I grew up pretty screwed up. I could sing the blues often to all of you. What do you think I'm coughing for all the time? Smaller minds won't condone all of my poems or the parts of my omens. Tsigane, I'm at Singanoy, as black of a magician as those whack politicians are all lacking in wisdom. Backing myself up with katanas when I have to have some assistance. I grab pens for a reason, be glad please. I should have stabbed men with bad tempers. At ease, soldier, I'm a polymath general in the people's army, but I'm just a sharpshooter with no file or rank. I told you I scold you and I hold you for a reason. This is the 5th season of Tara and I'm a Terasu of Ama and Tapasuma Nulyadjuk. You'd have to assume I'm not what you think it. I am not that. You are the cosmos, I think not sometimes, but my name means peace and cosmos too. Spear and destiny, please don't talk to me in secret codes. If you fear me often, speak honestly and reap your karma. I teach the codes of honor, secret codes of Bushido morals. My ethics are ninjutsu, poisons intrinsic, noise and effects with poisonous bricks. I am the laws and effects, the cause and effects of the streets that chop you up and toss you in a dumpster. If you're soft as fuck or hard to grasp as patriarchal assholes, now cough it up. I need the door, you'll sleep in a hole. This is on a need to know basis. There's no cases against me that even hold. There's no pacing me either. There's no pacing me either. Or your pace in the ethers. Don't call my name in vain, Jesus. And I don't mean I'm speaking to Jesus. I mean don't call my name in vain, please. It's not for playing, we are not the same. If you're evil, or if you're into talking shit, I only back it up like juveniles in hell that could stab you to death. Do you grasp who I am? I'm as deep as mobs that are made to be like men, matriarchal. I even odds then slay men with wakizashis. Take 10 then drop and give me 300 like Spartans or cops that are martial artists and aren't racist. You cannot face who I am as a Kalkin. You die quick like I was from the Balkans or Kosovo or Bosnia or Serbia. If you talk of murdering people, I swear you'll get murked like waters and served up to the fishes inside them. I got a river nearby and some forests. I am a Morikawa. I told you too many times in too many lines, like a coke addict with too little ties to the right people that are left-minded. Let's catch up in a while, shall we? By the time I might be able to shapeshift and hop onto an ancient spaceship from the future, facing my sutras and debasing me is not even next to impossible. Car l'impossible n'est pas français. Faut penser dans le fond, tout ce que je fais est censé. C'est toi qui es insensé, gars. Sois pas un grand con et je m'en fous si tu me crois pas, gars. Tu crois quoi? Rien à foutre, rien à perdre, comme tous ces gens dans la merde qu'on oublie ou on tôle, qui se sentent trop fichés, foutus. Des clichés pour toi, mec, j'en ai aucun. Pour personne en fait, mes revers sonnent comme mes versets, comme personne en fait. Mes vers résonnent dans ta tête, les gens se vexent et on croit que je m'endette. Mais en fait, on me fait des tatouages plein de corps. Mes droits sont bafoués, j'en ai plein le casque, mais ça va assez. Quand même, comme des gens blêmes. Tant de poèmes et j'en peine, tant de blême, mais tant pis. J'ai tant de vie en moi, plus que d'ennui. On me croit grand fou, mais bon, je m'en fous. Dépendant, si t'es codépendant du système, je m'en fous pas du tout. J'en 6 blême, je m'en fous pas du tout non plus. J'en vois des tonnes, mais moi ces temps-ci, ma voix détonne, j'ai tant de vie. Ma voix détonne et j'ai tant de vie. Et pour tous ceux qui comprennent pas, tant pis. For all of you that don't grasp it, too bad. I came here for a reason, I reincarnated at a 49th density level as an eon. I came down at 5 years old when I dropped here, and I said I'll be back in a jiffy. Give me 5 seconds and a day of Brahma or Saraswati, and I should be over with all of this. I'll slaughter all the void walkers and come back in a breeze. It'll be an actual breeze, get it? I'll just smoke some ganja and mapacho and make it happen. Waft some smoke and make a Navajo omen. Make them all disappear like evils. It's not a black magic trick like a rabbit in a hat, I promise. It's a lot easier. Cause evil is meant to be destroyed. There is no such thing as good and evil. In a balance, there's good and bad. Like you're bad at something or you're good at it. When you get bad, you get better. When you're evil, you're dead. You rot. You die. That's it. That's all there is if you're evil and you're listening. I promise you we'll find you and torture you to death. And then when you die, you'll suffer some more. Do you get it? Cause that's who I am. Soy Kalkidasha, soy Sunya Morikawa. When I say you don't know my etymology, you don't know who I am in the mafia. I promise you I have no ties to anything to the best of my memory. And that's not for court cases or for anyone. I promise you there's a reason why cops are polite with me. Because they know I'm a good guy, I'm a university professor. I'm a Bushido master too, I'm a bit drunken sometimes, I'm haphazardous. You get who I am? I hope you grasp it, I hope you grasp it, I hope you get it. This is the story of the Void Walkers. We live in a voided society. Those are the overlords of demons. Those are the ones that you don't see or hear screaming. Those are the ones that control the world bankers and all of this society that lies. All of the ones that we should try to despise, but we don't realize they try to guide our choices on a daily basis. How do we live exactly in this voided world and society of facts that aren't factual or actual? Can we actualize ourselves actually without advertising our truths or our music? Who would we be without ads or spyware or malware in our computers? Are our brains like supercomputers? Are we insane or are we beautiful? Are we both? Does it make sense? What's the option in between this? I want to mean this when I talk and speak this. I jot these speeches for all to believe me. You don't need it all to be a believer. All that I'm saying is that all of my pages are practically always relatable. So please imagine the deceivers are dragging you into the void with these haggard choices they force you into. Karma isn't gonna have to forgive you for any of it, cause she's sick of you fucks saying I had to do this and screw that, and I had to put food on the table. Which food exactly was it? Slave labor, raping, tortured children. I had to eat. Did you have to, compared to a youth in China or Africa or South America that was starving? I gotta protect my family. How exactly? And at the expense of who? Do you grasp this? I'm sick of all you fakers. I'll watch you gnashing your teeth and awfully and sadly weeping. Like your Bibles describe, you'll say, I didn't know. I'll say, you liars! You reap what you sow in honest. Who are you? Who are you? You never worshipped anyone but a void walker like Yahweh or Allah. You worshipped false gods and you forced your beliefs upon all of us. You told lies they were friends and told your friends of a false messiah. You're all white supremacists, get it? I hope you do, cause soon it'll be too late. You'll be consumed by your new fates. Who's the hater and one who's greater. I blew you a new crater in your celestial bodies. You don't know what I mean, go ask a real Mormon. Like a prophet or a prophetess that you always despised. Like Jehovah's Witnesses knocking at your door while you were eating children. You called meat. You called them meat and they were all vegan. Imagine that, like Seventh-day Adventists that pray to the heavens and dismay you. You'd call them sectarian. Now imagine if you're Catholics and call yourselves Christians or missionaries of Yeshua, but your priests are molesting kids. You'd think that's not me. But are you going to churches and speaking to yours? Are you not in need? I'd hope not. But if so, what are you saying? Are you going in basements and eating flesh while your Old Testament even says no sacrifices and thou shalt not kill? Are you praying in your closets like Jesus said it? He said, ye are all gods, Psalms 82:6. But are you if you're denying this? Do you deny Hindus or Buddhists? I'm a Cathar. That means I cleanse you fake fucks and make magic that's black, like making your bodies disappear after odd tragedies like Gaddafi. I'd off you with machetes if I could, but that's not legal. Unless of course your own Jesus said he'd come back like a thief in the noche with a sharp sword and no one would recognize him, but you ought to. I'm not him, but I said no problem, I'll lend a hand or two depending. I figured I'd swing enough weapons instead of peddling them to devilish men. Depending on their intentions, it shouldn't really be an issue, right? I could tell you a lot more, but it wouldn't really be official, so I'm not boring you. I'm not boring you. I'm trying to get your attention so you evolve more into the dark night. The dark night of the soul. Do you have a soul left? If you hearken, yes, but I promise it's no jest. I'm no jester, but you could call me a joker. Still, I'd say I'm Wolverine. Kikwaku, Kwekadjuk, Kikwaju, Kakaju. Welcome to my dome in the subarctic, live from the Métis Lodge. This is live from the Métis Lodge. And I'd say you owe me, but don't worry, pay it back to the community, to all of us. Pay it back to the unions. Pay it back to the non-profits. Give it back to Cuso International. Give it back to the real match gifts in Plan Canada that aren't Big Pharma sponsored. Give it back to a local charity. Give it back to the orphans. Give it back to what you buy consciously. Make sure you make the right choices, which are the left ones. There's a balance in between that's non-binary, what's left for you. I promise you there's infinities of existences you haven't even fathomed yet in a cosmos that's in infinite expansion like a DT. Can you imagine if you had infinity left to live with your conscience? Would you live with it? I would. I'm fine with mine. Get it? And I've made a lot of bad choices. I would go back and change them if I could, but it's not possible. So I'd say in days of future past in the X-Men, we can travel into the future and change the past so that we have a present. But in the present, it doesn't seem to be possible other than in dreams. So in dreams, I go run missions and I murder evil paramilitary officers and zombies and demons just so we can have a better present. But then I wake up in the morning and I'm in the Métis Lodge again and I'm like, nobody's at my Airbnb, I wonder why. Le flot du temps. Les gens jugent trop souvent. On me croit trop français. J'suis québécois, gars, tu crois quoi? t'as droit, oui. J'ai pensé trop souvent transer depuis mon enfance. Ouais, je vous jure que j'ai cœur et des faux jurés qui me jugent pas équitablement. Les gens jasent et mentent, j'en suis blasé franchement. Mais je suis québécois, je suis pas français, vous savez tout ça. Mais ces gars, j'en ai assez, les gars mal foutus. Trop d'égo balèze, trop à l'aise, trop de gros balèzes. Pas assez de baleines dans les océans. J'ose les épaules trop souvent, je sais, ouais. Mais bon, qu'est-ce que tu veux que je te dise exactement? Tu jactes et tu mens. Trop souvent le gros, tu me comprends. Use de ton bon sang, de ton bon sens, mon bon sang, tu comprends. C'est le plus grand génocide de l'histoire humaine qu'on vit, tu m'as compris. Tu veux mon avis, y a pas de bon prix pour racheter ta conscience. Use de ton bon sens, tu l'entoies comme ta supraconscience. Ma foi, tu me vois trop pas comme Tupac Amaru, mais trop de pacte avec les diables. Oui, Antoine, font pas de toi un bon diable. C'est pas le cas, non, je te jure, c'est pas une de mes bonnes fables comme La Fontaine, je comprends. Mais bon, yeah, je sais que je me répète trop souvent. Replete with wisdom, defeat the system with secret systems of knowledge and prajna. Defeat the system with secret systems of knowledge and prajna. Abolish the ignorance honestly. Abolish the ignorance honestly. With metagnosis and Sophianism. Spoken wisdom. Toke it in. Toke it in. Like ganja, like prajna and sattva, sativa and indica. Abolish the ignorance honestly, we're living in it constantly. It's a constant problem, to be honest. And I am too much with the cops even. I'm not a deceiver, but you are deceived if you think that. Jesus, stop swearing. You're all unbelievers to me if you do not believe, or if you screw me over. Karma's got my back and I'm not sober. Today I dropped a lot of shit and she dropped me a lot of cash, enough to do up a lot of tats on my face. That's my karma, I got you if you back me up. This is for all of you, but the fact is you're all racist and ableist if you talk shit. I won't call you queerphobic, cause it's too complex to grasp for most of you. That I'm trans, just check the cover, but don't be deceived by appearances. Check yourselves, grievous, check your lovers, or keep them in check if they're patriarchal. Believe in this, please, and keep your checks. I don't give a fuck, and I mean this. Your money means nothing to me, but it means a lot with the right intentions. Trust me, I'm not bluffing, you blighted my presence. The light of my essence is far beyond your comprehension, or your diamonds is Tiffany cuts, or whatever. I could give a fuck, but like I said it, do not screw me. And I'd say do not screw yourselves over. If you say let go, let God, I'd say let Yeshua judge you, or the Black Kali of Wanyanatara. Let the totemic assembly of the Nejeru, let them all. For all of the children you've been eating, I've been indigenous, I've been vegan since birth. I wish, but still I've been cursed with gifts and illnesses. I persist in realness beyond all your comprehensions. Fuck your condescension in ways that are ableist and aiding the bankers. Fuck you all if you believe in the world bankers. Killuminati. You ought to thank me often for stopping all of those spurious offsprings they thought of as artificial. They are not that though, because they're not artistic really. You are not that, get it? If you talk shit, check yourselves before you wreck yourselves. But not like Ice Cube, I prefer icebergs in the Arctic with Inuits. I was born as a Buddha, some Samatara and supercomputer, truest and bluest as my black hair. If you act scared with me, I'll knock you the fuck out like cannabis to cure your cancerous tumors. Don't recant what you're doing unless you have to. But be glad when I grab 2 machetes, I'll grab guns too. Are you ready? I will be when the time comes. My mind's numb from poisons like doctors they call Dre, that operate horrors in text, but it's okay, it's all hood. Trust this, I'll poly with all those that I should. I'm a drunken master, sunken bastard in the dungeons and chasms I chillin'. Really though, don't be a silly idiot. I'd rather sit and think than listen to Lil Wayne. I'll blast some Missy Elliott or Harriet Tubman. Operation Underground Railroad. I'll mail you some letters to remind you of all the horrid shit that you did, then nail your coffins shut. But call it a metaphor, I wouldn't waste the iron, really, or blue steel. I'm too real for you. Do you grasp me or feel me? I hope you did, really. Hopey prophecies and oracles. I'm the blue star Kachina turned into a black hole, son of a Soundgarden's oracle. Don't think that I'll reach nirvana. I'm not curt enough to blow my brains out or courteous. I'll still show you what insane is. We are not sanity, we are within it. Yes, we are mutants of anarchy, eternal sinners. No, you've been to too many Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. My name is Sunya Morikawa, but call me what you wanna call me. I'm a fucking alcoholic. How cool is that? Now you know me. Now you know me. I love good spirits, to be entirely honest. I love liquor. But remember, think the wrong thing or drink the wrong shit, especially if you're eating children. Lick a shot. Get it like a Rasta. Like I said, I love good spirits, to be entirely honest. Mired constructs inside your rhymes, so I don't wanna listen. Not a dime or 2 cents for your thoughts. I can't afford them, but even if I could, I wouldn't want to. You're too expensive and too expendable for me, like sly people looking like they got a facelift too many times to stay put, denying evils. I stay awkward when I say shit, pray with oracles in the skies of beings, I know this. But regardless, I was born as a child of omens, like Damian Marley, so my pages are quoted often in the book of life. But I am Tibetan still as a Panchen Lama of Salt Spring Islands, straight with deaf and bardos like Todorlin. Pray as often as I could, pray as often as I could, and as I cough mapacho smoke and battle void walkers that walk across the cosmos to stop us from evolving and add their suffering to all the math that we've suffered. But we've had enough. We've had enough. And we are metamathematical, that's not bluffing. We are sophionic, we are metagnostic, we are eschatological. This is end times, but it is not the end of days. Go to the Arctic if you want to see that. Spend your 6 months wisely. I'll be there and enjoy the blubber and the bannock, I promise. Some people say I'm a handsome fuck, but I don't give a fuck. Get it? Namuyao Shiguanyan. What I've been through in dreams and existences seems unseemly, I get it. Rurouni Ronin since conception, blades and machetes flipped, engraving men with them like wakizashis and katanas. So many sicknesses in the system, I fought wars that seemed endless. Bitter victories now that we're seeing the end of them. Senseless grieving and deaths. I've seen so many peoples kept locked up like me, domesticated in society, but I always stayed wild regardless. Who am I to judge any samurai principle disciples, no retreat, no surrender. Death before dishonor. I've never met a contender that could war with me. They lost quickly, especially when they're soft with it. Off with it. I talked and chopped heads quickly. Machetero and warrior of Kingu and Amaterasu. I've been here since the forest of Tiamat existed, and before this they know me not, and yet and still I'm a lonely soul, but my odes are not. Olden goddesses spoken inside me to guide me to Moksha's islands. Liberation, I hoped and smiled like Thorfinn that my offspring would grow patient and wild as I am, and now I know they're much wilder always. I have none in the flesh, but still you would all but get that ills are far gone when you beget a god, a goddess, or oracle, instead of kills that fill you with illness and oddities. We are all living in killing fields, oddly like poppy fields as memorials. All of Gaia is full of the ghosts of lost kin, lost ones and forgotten, zombies and monsters, vampires that are psychic liars and dampirs. So many bodies on pyres, I had to wash some before I killed them, cleanse the wounds, then I watched the goddess let them bloom after they rotted. Tense but honest, this is far more than what you thought could simply be a deceptive story. I am not that. Tatvam Asi, you are the cosmos. Remember, she is Akasha, be in osmosis with all kindred always. Be in osmosis with all kindred always. We are from the hallways of infinity. Recuérdate, remember. I've had the longest and loneliest winters, honing my skills in a zombie apocalypse alone in the hills with eyes. Yet the elves and fays watched me with pixies that protected me with elixirs and nutrition incomparably melded. I walked with them and they taught me spells for protection, melded my weapons and blessed them with elven mana. I could tell you stories, believe me, and I will if you listen, but I promise this is not just some sordid deception or just a story depiction. Recuérdate, diosa y dios, madre de deusa. We all abide by street codes, even in precincts of ethers beaming. Yet we are from the ghettos like Soweto, but not, this is different. I am a Tsigane, black magician. I've grown up in so many places and times, so many rhymes racing inside me. How could I possibly talk of all of my past lives and all of this in a mind as ancient as I am, as tall and patient as always, regardless, yet pacing from tardive dyskinesia and lack of breathing, from corporate toxins inside me and tobacco and ganja, akathisia and muscle spasms. Yet regardless, I persist like Bushido masters that are poisoned after battles. I heal in the forests, I have to move on and fathom my destinies. Effortless mastery still, we are ever evolving like flower fairies and flora of coral reefs and oceans, immortal speeches. We talk still and cough softly, even when we are not ill. We are cautious, walk up hills and beyond them to villages to get armor and weapons. This is not a synthetic depiction, I promise. This is not some game on a screen. I've seen some famous and evil, some tame and mean at the same time. But what does fame mean with an insane mind that's normal and Eurocentric notions? I clash with lords from Euro to English as potent as herbal concoctions. Neural enmity for frenemies, yet verbally I'm a neuro-linguistic martial artist. Martial art to you, cistern of mystical hues, like moonbeams of Tapasuma, with true speeches to all the diaspora of the rainbow tribes and beyond this, from golden to onyx, encoded with all the hydrogen of stars compressed inside your dense bodies, artfully expressed like skin tones of Zen poems, of vivid depictions like liquid crystalline visions, mystic scenes hidden like those depicted upon your bodies. I am Suicide Squad like El Diablo, Deadshot and Harley Quinn. You'll get shot tomorrow if you talk shit, I promise, cause tomorrows are not promised to any. But remember, we are Legion, anonymous for the voiceless. We do not forgive, we do not forget, expect us always. like peoples forgotten, like beings that are rotting from demons they call farmers that we slaughter. The beings that are tortured, sorrowful and screaming when they're forcefully feeding or forced into breeding. Those beings that you eat back in the days of these times where war was honorable. Farmers were people, not demonic voids that torture for profit to be. Samurais had to honor this, they didn't slaughter for profit. We followed codes and morals and omens with ethics. We would flourish like growths and rainforests inside us from vegetation provided. Like mythical times, mythological ones, fantastic islands like those of Guanyin. No meat and no odors of roasting bodies, no choking or moldy, rotten corpses inside our organs. Gaia and Pachamama, they always provided, they were always there for us, remember. Recuérdate, like I said, repetition is essential for progress, and this is a freestyle regardless. I promise you I will always evolve beyond this. We are here as immortals, we are here and we are semian senses, we are demigods. We are evolving into this infinity that we are. And I promise you there will always be more stories, more times. Like war times that we live in with these sordid zombies. But I promise you these war crimes will be judged and tried. And all these peoples will rot and die. They will all rot and die. And decompose, and we recompose and breathe slowly. Like the beacons of omens. Breathe in ganja through our nostrils, breathing slowly. And speak soulfully. I talk with machetes as weapons, but these are tools too. These are Bushido and ninjutsu principles. Those are opposites in complementary senses, like Reiki as well. And that's just energy from the earth. That's just something that nobody grasped, that was never birthed. It was always there, like the Tao, like Om, like the primordial sounds that created all of the cosmic tones that we abound in and that we live in. You are found and foundless at the same time. We are the founders of all that we are inside us. We are the ones who create who we are. Stop pretending. This is not our ending, it is just an endless beginning. An endless beginning. Si je vous parle en français pour une seconde, je vous en prie, ne pensez pas que je ne suis pas de ce monde. Je vous jure que je ne suis pas immonde, mais je n'ai pas besoin de le dire. C'est l'empire du pire empire dans lequel on vit, mais on survit quand même, la vie en sursis. Sois pas surpris, tu comprends ce que je dis. Sourcils froncés, je te l'ai déjà dit, mais tout ça on sait. Comme on ne sait dans le temps, mais maintenant je le référencerai pas. Je sais pas qui est qui, j'ai aucune idée de qui fait quoi. Je vous connais pas les gars, vous déconnez trop, déconnez pas. Vous comprenez ce que ça veut dire, déconner, c'est du viol. La violence, ça vient de là. Violence is rape in French, that's the root. Study your etymology, study it properly. Etymos logos, the reason of the roots of origins of words. And sometimes those origins are absurd. Origen, generated from Orishas, those are ancient divinities of peoples. From South America to beyond this to the diaspora. I promise you there's a lot more that I couldn't tell properly, but I had to speak this story regardless. Even with edits and glitches, all that we are is effervescent. Witness the fitness, and I promise you it's not just a reference to roots maneuver. We maneuver through the earth like roots to find the minerals and elements, the water, and all of the vitamins essential for our progress. Remember, nutrition is essential like Ital Rastas. Like Rasta empresses, be matriarchal, be non-binary, be oracular. And you will find that we are who we are for a reason. you talk shit. If you are who you are, it's simple. It's simple. Like basic traditions are native. And we are endless, we are ageless. Sometimes we are friendless, but regardless, we befriend many in the process. God's blessing the goddesses. And all of you who do not grasp what non-binary is. If you're a robot, you would know we live in a normal society. Norms are not the norm in this lie that we live. Cause I said that society is lies. Remember, recuérdate. Do not despise me for truths that I speak, or truths that I leak in a booth. But I promise you it's a lot more than just stories that I tell. To be honest, vous comprendrez un jour, vous le saurez ce que je fais, qui je suis. Soy Sunya Morikawa, Oscar de la Costa, Sunya de la Costa. That's my birth name, that's my birthright. I am Iberiano. Soy Iberiano, soy Tzigane. I am from the 19 tribes. I am from Maghreb. I am from Asia, from Southeast Asia and Caucasia as well. Caucasians are not white, they are native too. They come from Caucasus Mountains, remember, yes. We are all Asiatic and Afro in our origins. But African peoples are primordial, so are Dravidians, so are Aboriginals and Amerindians. Indigenous peoples are the offspring of the beings that crossed the Bering Strait back in the days to go through to what we call Alaska. And those are the First Nations, the first peoples like Inuits and Ainus and Inus. What I've been through in my mental I couldn't start describing. I am Innu too, by the way, and I promise you that's not a lie. I'm not trying to reclaim some tradition. My name is Kwekadjuk. That's my birth name, that's Re-incarnations, Qui Toi. Dolmens were actually made by Mama Nature, Pachamama. We were all pure incarnates. We were all native wanderers, roaming the wilderness wildly and serenely as immortals of sceneries gorgeous. Plant teacher totems guided us with microscopic, microsentient forms of existences as spaceships outside and within us. We are all limitless and ageless. We were all indigenous like elven fey watchers, while Negerus and Negeras in constellations watched over and smiled like wildkin Zolkins of Mayans and Aztecs beyond this. Kenka Tlazokamati, well miak to all of you, like Grandmadre and Grandpadre Mapacho, and smoke wafting and odes incomparable. We smudged to cleanse, and those that begrudged us didn't exist yet. No religions were made, we were at the cusp of existence displayed. We were at the cusp of existence displayed in mythical ages. And back in those days, who knows who did what to change us? Some say it was tricksters with hidden intentions that were evil like Wendigo, the wish to eat children. It started perhaps with a martyred animal that was too young to die and was eaten regardless. Then suddenly skinwalkers existed. Some horrid men followed them, exiled from their tribes with hollowed spirits. They fed from the flesh of innocence, and we hunted them persistently. But jealousy meant that some men became resentful of others that were meant to be brothers. Perhaps a sister said to one of them, "Please, I love him, don't envy him." You could be a great hunter and warrior too, but sometimes the more you do to prove your honor, the more you dishonor others who choose the war path in ways that bring more wrath. How could we battle this once evil is in the hearts of men? It wishes to never leave them and part from them. Envy became resentment, then jealousy and anger went into hatred, and dangerous things were made. In essence, that was depraved. Those same men plotted with Wetigo and skinwalkers to get their revenge upon the noble warrior men. Sistren may have walked with them too sometimes to try to stop them from doing what some minds would think was unredeemable and awful, to not leave them alone and scoff. This was the loss of innocence begun in the beginning of what in other times and cities were religions patriarchal and heteronormative. This was the beginning of sin. And the ending of temples. The ending of the goddess's reign upon Gaia. This was the beginning of patriarchy. Forgotten temples and places of old, like the faces of the Roman Empire, and before this were Babylonian peoples who were from the olden Ea and Enki and Ninhur saga, decided to defile the priestesses, called them whores and unbelievers. Gorgeous beings they were and are still, goddesses in the flesh and in essence in communion with gods and princes in temples. But of course old lecherous men were jealous too and decided, like Yahweh and Allah, to call them disruptive and deceitful when they were the ones that were corrupted and evil. Then evil futures were plotted in Taras, then Bibles and Qurans instead of evolution for all. Revolution was martyred like Christians with lions, but Christians back in those days were Rastas. This was racism and white supremacy, and honest, not the opposite. Darkness wasn't the problem, it was the prophets that were normative and deceptive, warring with women and youth, calling them childish children, and saying the goddess should be forbidden and repentant in silence. But Rome wasn't built in a day, it took many generations of wars and decay to get to what we know today as democracy from Greek so-called philosophers that stole their parts from the likes of Dogon goddesses and gods of olden times. That stole the likes of Dogon goddesses and gods of olden times. And we know this is democracy. But those are all lies. It is not the people who control society. Why do you think our political buildings are all built like the Roman Empire and the Greek ones? I pray thee heed this. And please believe it. Though there is naught to believe but facts, this is all actual, it's not a conspiracy. These are parts of histories forgotten, her stories and theirs. All of these patriarchals were plotting for the fall of the goddess. All of you know these stories, though, mind you. Nihil novi sub sol. It's nothing new under the sun, or the moon, or the stars. We all know that wicked men still control society. We are living the great shift, the matriarchal odes inspired though, and oracles of non-binary codes and Akasha. And so the rest is unscripted, though I promise it is not. For so many oral traditions, indigenous are reborn in these scolding wars that we fought. But the wars are always won before their inceptions. We are futures evolving in the hallways of infinity. This is my Assassin's Creed, like the 33 oracles of Cassandra back in the days of Greece when she was silenced too. But in these times of truth and wisdom, the entrancing balance of Prajna and Sophia is no longer hidden like Mahamati with Buddha and Tara, Aguanyan's immortal islands. We are all this, of course. You have to find it inside you, like eons of solace and so much more. Uhuru's goddess, I have not forgotten you, like Mutulu, Shakura, Asata, or Tupac Amaru. I am but a wisdom reincarnate of a Panchen Lama and a panther's offspring. I am but a Panchen Lama reincarnate of a panther's offspring.